Hello and welcome to the Lenko show. This is the podcast to listen to right now, right here, today. This is the podcast to listen to if you are in search for some form of inspiration. I am going to be speaking to one of the most incredible coaches, most inspirational guys that I know. And his energy, if you're listening to this first thing in the morning, his energy is going to pick you up and drive you through the roof. I did ask for him to send me a list of things to introduce him with. I know him quite well already, and I'm actually quite nervous about this today because I'm going to be speaking to essentially my head coach, my boss, someone who I play for, admire greatly, and I get to ask him a lot of questions today. So the person who I'm going to introduce to you is Jason Scott, and I'll tell you a little bit about Jason before we bring him in. He's been coaching for 16 years. He started at Loughborough University, same place as me, helped set up Tamworth Phoenix, the American football team, moved to America, where he coached at Endicott, then Mississippi State, before coming back to Tamworth, winning a Brit Bowl, which is huge. That is our national championship, our equivalent of the Super Bowl. Then he was hired by the University of Nottingham to run their American football program. Yes, we do that in universities over here. He was also named Great Britain head coach back in March last year at the start of COVID. Brilliant. He graduated from Loughborough University in Sport and Exercise Science. He's in the British University Football Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, I'm not. He's the first British coach to coach in a Power 5 game, and that is a big deal, by the way. He's coached several NFL free agents and draft picks. He's got another one coming up on the way. This one's a big one, especially for anyone associated with British American football. One of his athletes from Nottingham, Ayo Oyalola, has been named to the NFL International Development Squad this year, so he coaches top-notch guys. And I can vouch for this. Even though I don't play defense, I don't play on that side of the ball, he will squeeze every ounce of juice there is out of anyone he comes across. A couple of other key things to note. He likes long walks on the beach and dogs. So, I mean, who doesn't? I think you're a bit weird if you don't. But anyway, there is so much going on. There is going to be so much great stuff coming out of this podcast. We're going to dig as deep as we can into Jason, find out as much as we can about his life, his experiences, what's got him through to where he is now, and pretty much his key ingredients, his key tips for excellence, leadership, management, being at the top of your game. And I think the biggest thing, and one of the biggest traits that I would say he's amazing at, is getting every single drop and ounce of juice and energy out of anyone he comes across. So please, please, please sit back, listen, take notes, and enjoy the show. So Jason, welcome to the show. I've just read off your introduction there, which is pretty impressive, if I do say. I've got to try and do this now without like sucking up or kissing ass or anything like that, because otherwise that looks really bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've known each other for long enough, so it's just a chat between two mates about football, about coaching, about life, about just being excellent. Hopefully, I can give you some takeaways, some things that you might not have already known. I mean, we've known each other for what, 8 years, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think just as you left to go to Endicott, to go to the States, I think that was pretty much as I started playing football at Loughborough.
Yeah.
I think. And then the first time I met you properly, because I know we spoke when I was trying to get over to America and play. And then the first time we actually met was when you came down to Tamworth, and I was like, oh shit, that's Jason. And you were like running around high-fiving everyone, like getting everyone juiced up and energized, and that was it. To be fair, it's been a beautiful 8 years, hasn't it?
That's me. It's kind of coaching is many things, but I think coaching more than anything else, it's a sales job, and you need to be the mirror and the conduit of what people want from you. And if you're, as a coach, you're positive and you're gregarious and you're there and you're unflappable, I think that goes a long way. And you just need to be open to the players picking up what you're putting down. And I think that's a big part of my strength, is the salesman in me, the used car salesman, if you will. Kind of loud colours, big noises, and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's who I am. It's certainly my coaching personality. I think personally I'm a lot more introverted and quiet and reflective. But certainly when I'm coaching, that's definitely the me that I want people to see. I think is confident, exuberant, and all those big words.
I think it's probably fair to say that for everyone that does know you, they'll 100% get that. And for anyone that doesn't, I can indeed confirm that is absolutely the case. I think for anyone that's listening to this,
yeah,
hopefully there'll be a few people, maybe one or two. But this, I think what we're going to go through today is going to be epic for everybody, because it doesn't matter what position you're in, whether you're a coach of a team yourself, whether you're in charge of a team at work, whether you're, a subordinate to somebody, or even, you're on your own and leading your own life, there is 100% going to be something for you to take away from this show, basically. So the first thing I want to do, and we're going to give everyone the value straight away. What are your key ingredients for excellence?
I think it depends. I say it depends.
Just getting you started and broken in with a nice, easy, short question there.
Yeah, I think I can wax lyrical about this at great length. And I think initially when you mentioned the questions, going, well, is it for me personally, or is it from the players or the coaching staff? But the more I think about it, I think it transcends all levels. Your DNA it is really, really important. It's what you fall back into in pressure situations, and it's a matter of, under pressure, you fall back to your level of training, and you want to identify who you are. And I think authenticity is the most important thing. Is if under stressful situations, and you're trying to find solutions, it's always easier to remember who you are first and foremost. If you've been a character and trying to be someone you're not, you're going to really struggle under those pressure points. I refer to poise as performance under pressure. What is your poise like? And I think authenticity is really, really important. When I first went to the States, I think I wanted to try to be the coach that everyone saw on all the TVs, all the movies and all the cheesy American teen dramas. They want this coach, a shouty coach, and that's not who I am. And as soon as I realised that the players got as much from me being the British guy with my own experiences, they got a lot more from it. And now there's some guys on that team, Kevin Egan, it was a phenomenon at Endicott College. He was possibly the best player I've ever coached directly. And I say coach in the loosest word because there's not a lot I could coach Kevin. Kevin was a Division 1 athlete who should have gone on scholarship to a Division 1 school, Rutgers. Then he went to pre-season and went, this isn't for me. I want a smaller school, a different environment for me. Then he went to, I think, Merrimack or University of New Hampshire, somewhere like that, like a division lower FCS school. And they said, still not right. But so he ended up at Endicott College, where his brother was. That small school environment was much more suited him. This is a highly recruited athlete at the top of his game. There's nothing I could have coached Kevin. There's nothing I could have taught Kevin. All I had to do is manage him. And I think, again, during those pressure situations where he was getting frustrated on the field, I could just relate to him and just say, look, just calm down, just chill out. It's all good. So being true to your authentic self, I think, is really important. And in that is honesty with the people who have put their trust in you, your players or the people who work for you trust you to make the right decisions, and they'll come to you for inspiration or answers or ideas. And I think that honesty whether it's a job appraisal or how they're playing, is really, really important. It's the hardest part of the game for me, is to relay information that's negative, really. I think it's hard for a lot of people. And again, by being authentic, by being who you are, by not putting on an act, it allows you to empathize a lot more. I believe in the belly, not the back. If I'm going to give you some feedback, I'm going to do it to your face. It's going to sting for a little bit. Depends how you take it, I guess. But I believe that to being honest and being authentic is really, really important. I think, again, being part of a team is important. I don't consider myself, although I'm the head coach or defensive coordinator or a guy in a senior role, I'm as much as part of a team as anyone else. American football, for those guys, those people who are not familiar with it, who's listening, there's the offense, there's the defense, the special teams. And I think there's the fourth part, which is a sideline. I think everyone in every single play should be exhausting themselves and should be trying to find a play to win, because in any given situation, only 11 people can be on the field at the same time. Meanwhile, there's a lot of people waiting for their opportunities on the sideline. What are you doing to get better? Are you supporting? Are you nurturing? Are you analysing? How you feel dealing with that situation? I think that's really, really important as well. Is although the pressure might not be on you in a certain situation, you can, again, empathise and support and work with the people who are in those pressure situations, because then it comes back to you when you are in those pressure situations. And having that support bubble is really, really important. It goes back to the very essence of the Phoenix: is I am who I am because of who we are. We are who we are because of who I am. It's that the Ubuntu theory that was championed by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, that Doc Rivers at the Boston Celtics made famous in sports and pop culture, but I think it's really reflective on business and teams, that the individual in the team relies on the community around them, the entire team, to help them succeed. But on the other side of that, the team needs that individual and their individual expertise to allow them to be successful. And I think that's really, really important, appreciating the individuality whilst embracing the team. Team players are really, really important to me. Honesty, as I said, is really, really important to me. And I think about the attributes I'm looking for when I'm recruiting young student athletes. My other hat is I'm the head coach of the University of Nottingham, and at the moment I'm deep into recruiting student athletes for the next academic year.
Even that may or may not occur.
Yeah. I'm like, and they message me and say, "Oh, coach, you're looking for a quarterback, you're looking for a running back, you're looking for a wide receiver." Now I'm looking for a competitor. That's what I want. That's all really athletes really want. They want to be able to compete. And if you're driven and you're motivated, and you want to compete and you want to be the very best version of you that you can be, I think you're going to be successful, and I think I can work with you. If you're not competitive, if you're willing to just sit on your laurels and go, "Yeah, I'm a good player," I don't care good players. I want great people. Great people make better players, and that's really, really important, that we're finding people who are like-minded, and we're creating that culture of greatness, or aspirational greatness, that they want to get better together, that they appreciate that whilst they are playing at a high level at junior football now, that they still have more to give, and they still have a higher level. And by working together, by surrounding themselves by other good people, you're going to do right. I think another part that's attached to this, and I'm just kind of vomiting kind of a stream of consciousness as it kind of occurs to me, but integrity. I think my definitions of integrity, again, something I look for a lot in my players and my coaching staff and the people I work with, is it's easy to do the right thing when people are watching you. Are you doing the right thing when no one's watching you? It's very easy to turn it on in front of a crowd, in a game situation, but those situations are only accessible through selfless work when there is no one there. Now, when you're by yourself in the gym, well, you know, especially in these COVID times, where no one can see you going to the gym. It's not like you're going into the gym and picking up a load of heavy weights and putting it down for the benefit of everyone in the room. It's
I can tell there is absolutely no one standing cheering every time you do that.
No. It's really, really important that you're doing it for you. And if I'm asking players to lift and to go and see the physio and go and get treatment, or making sure they're going to their lectures on time and being responsible, being a great teammate, being a great team leader, I need to know that they're doing it, and that integrity is really honest. And I want to kind of reflect real quickly on a great player I coached at Nottingham, and I hope he doesn't mind me. I'll leave his name blank. It was my first year there, and I made this big kind of emotive speech about integrity and about honesty, about authenticity at the start. And he came up to me maybe a month or two into the season and said, "Coach, I've messed up. I was arrested the other night for trespass and criminal damage." He's into graffiti, he's into like that kind of that culture, and he was arrested by the British Transport Police at Nottingham Station by tagging and stuff. He said, "I can't make practice. I've got to go and do this and do that and the other." I said, "Well, I really appreciate you telling me that. I can't. You've let yourself down, you let your teammates down because you're not able to practice and to play and participate in this game." So we had a chat, and he was really honest with me, and he took his. We agreed on a one match suspension, and he ended up being the captain the following year and year after, because he did the right thing and he owned up to it. And that's the sort of team, the person I want, admitting that when you've fucked up, say, "Look, my bad." I'm a big fan of going when players go, "Yeah, coach, my bad." Yeah, you're bad. Whose bad do you think I thought it was? You're the guy who missed the tackle. Yeah, of course it's your bad. But owning up to the mistake, not making excuses, I think is really, really important. And to again, not in the belly, not the back, confront those difficult conversations, have those difficult conversations. And whether you're giving the bad news or receiving the bad news, be emotive, be emotionally intelligent, and understand that, it takes a lot of courage for, to be in that situation. And I think that integrity is really, really important to me. Again, one of the things that we talked a lot about at Tamworth that year, where we won the national championship, was doing the invisible to achieve the impossible. Doing the things behind the scenes.
I think sorry to break you off there. I think I spoke about that in one of the first podcasts. As like, I remember the morning of the game.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
we'd been out. We'd done the walkthroughs in the car park. I think some of us with a mug of coffee in our hands. And then I think we all went for a team breakfast after that. And you mentioned about seeing the invisible. And I think I remember just sitting there confused, thinking, what is he talking about? Until you actually explained it. I think I was somewhat baffled and confused by that.
Well, like a lot of things I speak in riddles, but they have a meaning somewhere.
Yeah. Well, we will come on to that in a bit, because I have got a few questions that I do want to ask you about that kind of stuff. And
so that kind of like what my DNA is. I think I've touched on some things, and I'll kick myself later when I listen back and things I wanted to say. But integrity, honesty, being selfless, acting with integrity, all really important for me.
So one of the other things, before we got onto this podcast, I spoke to you about writing the book of Jason.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm doing it for you right now. I'm taking all these notes. I'll just send them to you afterwards. By the way, if anyone wants to buy the book of Jason, we'll make sure you get sorted out with that later. So I do want to recap a couple of things that you've said there. You mentioned about, one of the qualities is being a top competitor. Mm-hmm. I would probably class myself as somewhat competitive. Like I care about winning a lot.
No, I think you are competitive because you care about winning, but you care about the team's success. because you're selfless. You exhaust yourself and you demand the best of your peers as well, and you'll hold them accountable, not in an aggressive way, but you'll make sure that everyone is on your level, and when you've got a team of people doing that, holding people accountable, playing at the right level, the fakes get found out.
Yep.
And we've had, certainly during my time, we've had some guys who've come down to practice at Tamworth and realised that this is more than I've bargained for. I can't hold up my end of the bargain, and I'm off. So the last 2 or 3 sessions, they can't hack the pace or the dedication or the accountability that's given to them, and they don't last.
100%. What I want to ask is, do you think that being that competitive as an athlete, or as much of a team player and being as selfless as that and caring about winning so much, does that make it easier for you as a coach to then be honest with the player? Because I know there's definitely been times where I've done something on the field and thought, right, okay, and I've just kind of like looked to the sideline, and then there'll be you or Dan or someone standing there, and I just think, look, you don't even, you can just give me a look and I already know.
Yeah.
I already know. But does it make it easier for you to have those conversations with people if they're of that mindset?
Yeah, because I think, again, it goes back to the honesty and the integrity and the authenticity. I'm very clear about the standards that I expect. And it's really funny that my defensive walkthroughs and certainly my scout periods are notable because I'm very particular in the way we do things. Bags have to be laid a certain way, cones have to be a certain way, the cones will have to be the same colour, and it's not kind of like an obsessive compulsive thing. It's a standards thing. I'm not cutting corners. I want us to look good and feel good and play good. So I'm going to show that my attention to detail is there. And the look, a lot of players that I've worked with and, people I call friends and, I have shared sidelines with talk about my look, that they get the disappointed father look. And I'm only disappointed whenever they've let themselves down through, and again, it's high standards, and it's not that I'm mad at them. I'm just disappointed. It's not that I'm mad at them. It's just that they're better than that. They're not playing to their level. And again, it's that accountability thing. In the same way that all the players hold each other accountable, if you're not doing anything that, and again, Lenny, I don't think you've ever done anything that isn't, 100 miles an hour, or, as focused and as good as you can be. If you make a mistake, it's because you genuinely make a mistake. I can't be mad at people who make mistakes. And those looks and those kind of parts of the game where people don't play up to their expectations or play up to their level, then they are mistakes, and I can't get mad at that. If it's repeated, then it's an issue with me because I've not coached it correctly. There's a fundamental flaw there that I've not coached. So I can never get mad with players unless they do something completely boneheaded. I don't think I lose my temper with players. Officials, maybe, but I don't think I've ever.
I think you've
lost my temper with a player on the sideline.
Maybe thrown your hat once or twice at an official, or two on the floor. Sorry.
Yeah, never at an official. I've thrown a flag on an official before. But yeah, never throw anything at an official. How dare you? I would never do that.
I think an official's actually thrown a flag at me once, hit me as well. He should have played quarterback. One of the other things I did want to ask you about as well is the importance of the sideline. Like you mentioned this, and I remember this was massive in pretty much every season that we've played. And I think it's probably relevant for people in their own lives as well, in terms of the people they've got around them who maybe, they're not playing an upfront role in that person's life, or maybe it's something in an organization or another team. But how do you cultivate that positive energy, positive environment, positive atmosphere in the people who aren't playing a direct role, but are maybe playing more of a support role? Because, obviously in our situation as a team, we might have a squad of 60 guys who are
Yeah.
all, we're not professional. We're paying money to be able to be there and for the privilege of being part of the team. Maybe some guys aren't even getting on the field because you can only put 11 out at a time. How do you really encourage and generate that juice or that energy on the sideline out of those guys?
I think you empower them. You empower, you empower the people who I refer to as my generals, because when I'm focused on the game, I need to focus on the 11 guys on the field and the X's and O's. My attention needs to be on them. So I know that I've got a group of guys, whether it's assistant coaches or veteran players, who are rabble rousers, who are, the generals who will get things stirred and will be great talkers and be great leaders and great teammates. And in the same way, when you're empowering the top level, you also need to empower the bottom level and make sure that the guys who don't play as much, you thank them for their time. Because like you said, in American football, British American football, everyone is paying for the right. Now, at the Phoenix, which is an elite team, you're going to have guys who play much more and almost have a better pay per play ratio, if that makes sense. They're paying £100, whatever it is, and they're on the field 100 times. Well, their ratio's pretty good. They're paying £1 every time they're on the field. But there's guys who will only play 10, 20 times. So they're paying much more to be part of this team and not pay even as half as much. So you need to empower those people in your teams to make sure that they do feel wanted, they do feel appreciated. I know that certainly when we run scout at University of Nottingham or at Tamworth, those guys are as important as the guys who are starting. Because we've got 11 guys who are executing the play on the field, the plan to win on the field, there is a team behind that plan to win. When we're formulating a game plan or a business decision or a route to success, sometimes that mission only requires 5 people, but the people behind that people is really, really important as well. So it's identifying the right people for the job, for the opportunity. Again, using the American football analogy, the way I run a defense is I will find the best 11 guys for that job, right? And the best 11 guys to play team A, team B, team C could be completely different. Doesn't mean they are any better than anyone else. They just play their role, and we have guys who are great role players. We've got guys who are excellent at what they do. And then I need them to do what they do. Don't try and moonlight and do something else. Don't do something that's not your strength. You might need to do it in a push, but put people in a position to succeed. It is really, really important. And the guys at the bottom of the ladder, you need to put them in a position to succeed. You need to make sure they appreciate the work that they do in putting the guys in the field in a position to succeed. So again, everyone's working together. And by getting that buy-in, that shared goal, that collectivism, it's vital to success. If you've got a team of 20 or a team of 40, a team of 50, and you've got your top 10, then 40 people are passengers. I don't want passengers. Be a part of the journey. And if you can't be on that journey, to use a journey analogy, be a mechanic, or change the oil, or make sure the sweets for the journey or something. Everyone's got something to give, because down the road it's going to be those people who will be on that journey, and you need to go through that process, I think, to success. Success doesn't happen overnight. You can't just go from nobody to somebody straight away. There has to be a process. It's very rarely that you leapfrog players or people into success. It's always a ladder. So again, empower. And certainly that's what I do with my coaching staff. And people ask, well, how can you coach a Phoenix? How coach Nottingham, coach GB? I've got a phenomenal coaching staff. I've got a phenomenal family who, delegation empowerment. Everyone has a role to play, and if I can't do something at Nottingham or Tamworth or GB or home, I know someone's going to pick up. And I'm very fortunate that in every aspect of my life I'm hugely supported by wonderful people.
I was going to say, with those three enormous roles, like there's no way that you could manage all three of those and micromanage.
No, I just again, it's all about getting the good team around you, and I spend a lot of time and hiring my staff. And there's no accident that some of the guys on those journeys with me are on all three teams, because I value them and I can trust them. I think that's really important. Going back into that DNA is, can I trust you? Do I know you? Can I trust you? Are you able to do the very specific job that I need you to do? Because the message, again, talking about the salesmanship, one voice can get lost in a crowd. But if you've got other people repeating that same message over and over again, then that mantra will get picked up. And, whether it's, again, I'm kind of famed for the cliches or the Jasonisms, but whether it's a fast boats thing or an Ubuntu thing or, whatever the mantra that season is, I keep coming back to it. I keep repeating it because repetition is really important. But the generals and the guys who I trust keep repeating it because they get it. They pick up what I'm putting down. And then before long, a turn of phrase turns into a movement.
I was gonna say one of the things that I really, really love, and probably got to be my favourite moment of any pre-season camp ever, is always the very first team meeting where you and the rest of the coaching staff essentially lay down the vision. Is that where, and then I'm assuming this is where the car salesman kind of comes into the room, where it's all about simply selling that vision, not just to your senior players, but also to the other people that are simply there to play a role and help the team along. And we've spoken plenty of times before, and I think we probably say it every season, but steel sharpens steel. Like, the stronger your defense, the stronger your offense, and vice versa. And it kind of goes in a bit of an upward spiral. Is that where, like, do you place a lot of emphasis on thinking about your vision, selling it to your coaching staff, selling it to your leadership team, selling it to the rest of the players, and then that filtering through the rest of the team?
Yeah, I think that, again, don't think that that vision occurs to me the night before. Again, it's teased out, and the threads are teased out through weeks or months of discussion, and someone will say something that will resonate with me, and it'll kind of be like an earworm, and it won't go away. And I go, that sounds really good. I like that, and I'll kind of work it in, and I'll start using it in the coaches WhatsApp group. I said, this is what we're doing this year, or speak to some of the senior players. Sometimes it can be a bit hackneyed or a bit cliched or a bit cheesy, and I say, now, what do you think of this? This is what I'm thinking towards, and they'll tease it and flip it over and massage it. Very rarely will I just come up with something and just vomit out. I can only think of one, that the genesis of an idea and the execution was hold the rope. I think that came to me literally on the drive to practice, and I executed it like half an hour later. And that was really powerful. So hold the rope was basically when you own something, when you have something, you worked hard to possess it, you don't want to let it go. So this was the metaphor that we were playing for essentially what was the Northern Conference Championship, and we've been together for 4 or 5 years, and we've owned the National League Northern Conference Championship for all that time. And Manchester have come along and he upset us at home, and out of a bottle of blue, it just came to me. So, right, what we're going to do, I'm going to have a rope. I dug around in a storage container before practice, and I went, Stevie, I want some rope, and I cut a bit of rope off. And I said, right, this is what it is. And I said, right, to one player, right, this is yours. This is your rope. Don't let it go. Hold this rope. And said to the other person, this is yours. Don't let it go. And we had a tug of war in the centre circle before practice, before we even started. The power of not letting go and being bloody minded and being determined that possession is so important. We possess something. They're trying to get it from us. Don't let it go. So that's how
I remember guys literally being dragged across the finish line. It was epic.
Yeah. And it just like that. I think that was the right thing for me to do at that time. And finding, it's very rare where I find the right thing in that situation and able to do it. But I read a lot, and things will sit in the back of my head, and I'll recall it at a certain point and judge. I think emotional intelligence is really important to be able to judge a room and to judge a huddle. You know, certainly when I'm talking to the team, I will individually address certain players. So when I'm doing the defensive thing, I will talk to people by name and I'll look them in the eye, and I'll talk to someone else and I'll look them in the eye, talking to the entire 20, 30 guys. But right now, Sam, I'm talking to you. Right now, Ben, I'm talking to you. It keeps them awake, keeps them alert. And
I was gonna say, do you deliberately pick on anyone that might not be paying attention, or is it just
no? But what I also have social barometers. So whilst I'm scanning to say who I'm going to pick on next, I'm always glancing at the people who either kind of get turned off by that rah-rah stuff, who get over-railed by that sort of stuff. I've always got a handful of guys who are my barometers of how people are feeling. And I think if I can get that person into a state of arousal, and that person, nodding and smiling, and that person engaged, then I've got the room, because a lot of people will buy it. Who is most resistant to that salesman pitch? Because a lot of guys have heard it before. I mean, I've looking at a Tamworth team, and there's a lot of guys who had me as a coach at Loughborough, had a coach in Nottingham, have been with me a long, long time. And some of them have heard the same thing many, many times. Certainly heard me wax lyrical many, many times. That's why I always change it up and understand that what works for one won't work for another.
I think that's a really good way of getting people's, not obviously just getting their attention, but also coaching and working the one-on-one. And like you mentioned about changing their state, their level of arousal, where especially when you've got a big group, it's so difficult to do that if you're speaking to everyone, but that kind of breaks it down a bit, doesn't it? And just gives you a chance to address.
Gets back to the empowerment thing as well, doesn't it? I mean, when you're empowering, you're talking to a team, and I will, again, pick out guys who don't necessarily play a lot. One of the questions I will often say, who's going to make the play today? Who's going to be the difference maker? Is it you, Stephen? Is it you, Ash? Is it you? And I'll go down even the guys who only have niche roles or important roles, but kind of special roles carved out for them. Are they ready to play? Because you're only one injury away from throwing someone in. So that's really important.
One of the things that you mentioned at the very beginning was about who you are when the pressure's on, and what you fall back on when you're under pressure. Are there any particular situations that stand out to you as being either particularly stressful or particularly difficult to deal with as a coach? Is there anything that really sticks in your mind?
I think that, again, it's all about emotional intelligence. It's be able to read a room, and if a team isn't playing well and they're pissed off, there's no point in yelling and shouting and screaming. You just want to relax. I mean, there's two examples I can think of. One was my first season at Nottingham. We've beaten Nottingham Trent twice in the regular season, and they came to us for the playoffs, like the quarterfinals. And we'd had our way with them both for the first two games. And in the playoffs, things weren't going our way. And you could see people started arguing with one another. Things were starting to turn nasty because everything was so smooth. And I just said, look, just relax. Just relax and have fun. It's football. Nothing's changed. You know, it's still the same game. It's still the same team we played twice before. You're still the same players. The only difference is you're putting undue pressure on yourself. Just relax, relax, and play your game. And then we turned it around and scored 2 quick touchdowns in the third quarter and began to turn the screw, and people started having fun again. And what was particularly notable in that situation is one of the players came up to me at the end and said, if that had been another coach who had worked with him previously, it would be yelling, it would be screaming, it would be throwing the proverbial, tea set across the room. Understand that people are mad, people are frustrated. There's no point in pouring more frustration onto them. Understand the situation, just chill out. You're good players. I've seen it time and time again that you'd be able to execute under pressure. Just execute. And the other time was, I think, again in this last season, 2 seasons ago, at Tamworth, where we were getting beaten at home by Sheffield.
Good team, though, Sheffield.
What?
Good, solid football team, Sheffield. They've always been hard on us, haven't they?
They have played really good defense. And walking to the huddle at the end, I could see people starting to not sulk. I don't think that's the right word, but kind of like start wondering what if. Now, this was on the back of 42 game winning streak we had, and people were starting to doubt. And I think I came into the huddle and said, I turned to Ant again, using my technique of speaking to one people. And I spoke to Ant Norton and said, Ant, do you remember the time where we were down by 14 points to Sheffield at half-time and came around to win? No, well, it's happening today. And you kind of say, yeah, it's going to happen today. And crucially, it was Ant Norton who was the guy who made some big plays. So it's understand. Emotional intelligence is hard to teach. I think you've either got it or not. Can you read a room? Are you able to empathize? Are you able to understand the situation and read people's expressions? That's, I think, something that I'm quite good at. I'm able to pressure check a room and temperature check a room. Okay, well, this is what we need to do. We're a bit flat here. We need to lift it. Or we're a bit over eager and too aroused. Let's just drop it a little bit. Or we're a bit down on ourselves. Let's have a little bit of fun. I say time and time again, football's a stupid game, man. It's a stupid game. You look at you look ridiculous, right? You do this because you love it, right? You know what I love just as much as football? I like winning, right? So let's all have fun and let's win games today, please. Because otherwise, you've come out, you've got out of bed on a Sunday, you look ridiculous and you're going to lose. So let's not do that. Let's have fun, let's enjoy it. And that's really, really important to have a laugh, because the reason I got into coaching is because I want to give back. And like you say, players pay to play in the UK. I don't really receive any financial remuneration. I get a little bit of money from Nottingham for expenses and everything, but I do it because I love it, man. And I love hanging out with the guys, and time and time again, I always go back to the amount of people I've shared a sideline with. And the amount of weddings I get invited to, and christenings and birthdays, and seeing people on Instagram and on Facebook and Twitter and sharing their joy of their happy times. And I can look back and I remember when you were a skinny fresher, you wouldn't say boo to a goose, and now look at you, you're doing really well, or you're coaching. And that's what I really get a kick from. It's not necessarily the wins or losses, it's the personal development of players and the personal development of teams and building characters. And that's really, really important.
The journey along the way.
That's what exactly it is. It's a journey.
Do you know what, as well, I just thinking back to the Sheffield, one of the other things that I think you said this at the Sheffield game. And I mean, I don't know. I probably get quite stressy when we are losing, but I remember a few times where we were down that season and I felt very relaxed. And one of the other things, I remember looking around and kind of scanning the guys at halftime, because we always ran down underneath the goalposts. Everyone kind of sat around, chilled out there. There was always people shouting or someone saying something to someone. And I just remember just watching. I think you kind of wandered over. And I think you started with something like, gentlemen, it's life. No one gets out of this alive. And I just remember just laughing. I remember just turning around, like trying to tuck my head so no one else could see me. But I just remember laughing because it's so true. And I think from that moment on, and then obviously you spoke to Ant Norton as well, and I just thought, yeah, game's done, we'll win.
Yeah, it's like understanding. I mean, the season previous, 2 seasons previous, when we won the national final, I knew we were going to win the second that the Blitz turned up wearing those T-shirts, walking around thinking they own the place, and seeing how pissed off that got some of our guys. So I don't know if you were there, but certainly I was on the sideline. I was watching the East Kilbride kids who the youth final, junior final before us, played the Blitz kids. Yeah. And we're sat on our sideline watching it, and then the Blitz swanned in, big headphones, their T-shirts on, and I'm like, you guys have no clue. You have no clue who we are and what's about to go down right now. Even when they took the lead, I'm like, this is fine. This is all fine. We've got this.
I remember watching that game. I can't remember the T-shirts, but it does sound like something that I would have been pissed off about.
Yeah. They had T-shirts. They had T-shirts that had, BDSM on. Right, and it was like I think it was baller something swag merchants or something on it, and I'm like, what on earth is that? You look ridiculous. And the best line that I ever heard in that day was Dan Shadipo turning around to them and said, BDSM, what does that stand for? Balls deep in silver medals. So
it's a good job we won.
Well, this is it. Yeah, but I don't think anyone. Again, I was. Again, you talk about entering a state of arousal and entering the zone. I was in the zone that day, and there was nothing that could sway us. I think I was so confident in the team, about our atmosphere, the walkthroughs that morning, speaking to the team at breakfast, the atmosphere in our locker room, the atmosphere in the team all season. And it was clear that, the Blitz had no idea who we were, what we were about. They may think they know. And the T-shirts we had made afterwards, they don't know. No one knows. No one knows what we're about. So that was big for me.
I think one of the things that we will go back to that national championship winning season, because there are so many good coaching elements and bits of inspiration we can take from that. But one of the things that I remember, I've discussed this with Ben Burslem.
Yeah.
Who, most people listening to this might not know him, but one of my teammates, Mank, loves Man United, top kid. And I remember we had a really, really good chat one time, probably giving him this somewhere, but we were speaking about...
Sitting at Limb Services, probably.
Right. We were speaking about your ability to say the right thing at the right time. And I think we've just covered a few examples there. One that I do want to talk about, and again, this was another one that just made me laugh. Before our last national championship game, which unfortunately we obviously came runners-up in, but you played us a video on YouTube of a praying mantis eating a lizard.
Yeah.
Would you care to talk us all through it? Because I think most coaches who are looking to motivate a team going into a national championship, you might want to give the rah-rah speech and things like that. But again, this is where you talk about your message or your vision isn't something that you kind of just come up with there and then on the spot. It's not purely based off the emotion of the situation. There is thought that goes into it. What was your thinking around that message and what you wanted to convey to us?
It's very similar. It's very similar to the Mike Tyson thing. The famous Mike Tyson quote was, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. And that's exactly it. The lizard swans in. I've got an easy lunch here. I'm going to have this praying mantis, much bigger in size. Had no idea what it was in for. And that's what it is. Is appearances can be deceptive. Size isn't everything. And if you're confident in your own abilities and skills, and you're able to execute, and you have some weapons of your own, then we've got a fighter's chance in every situation. And it's really important to find out what the culture of the team is, what the characteristic of the team is, and you can call back to it. So that was that. It's like, doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter about the size. If you've got a plan to win and you execute that plan to win, we've got a good chance. And again, it's just a little bit of fun, isn't it? It's not about being over aroused. Everyone's up for the game, everyone's excited. It's a national final. Let's just kind of take it down a little notch or two and have some fun and reflect on why we are here today, why we are in the national final, because we have a plan, and we've executed that plan all season. Talk about food chain. We're top of the food chain. We've killed our fair share of lizards over our years, so let's do it again.
Yeah, there is a time to get excited and hyped up and ramped up about the game. 16 hours before kickoff isn't the best time to do that, is it? When we're trying to send everyone off to bed for a good night's sleep. So talk us through the lead up to that national championship. So the season before the national championship season, was that your first season back at Tamworth?
No, it's the second. So the first year we went and we were runners up in the north, and we split the series to East Kilbride. We beat them at home, lost to them away. We went for the field goal. We played for a field goal at the end, East Kilbride. And we split that series. I think we lost again another game. Did we lose another game, or was it just one?
I think we must have dropped another one.
Oh yeah, we lost to Sheffield.
Yeah, we did.
We lost to Sheffield. So that was the first year, and then second year the first game we played was up at East Kilbride. And East Kilbride have had a number for a number of years, and we went there and we put 50 points on them. I think their fourth player from scrimmage was an Al Jarvis pick six. And I thought, this is where we're going to get real.
I was going to say, do you think that was kind of like a symbolistic turning point, and we are going forward, we're going to...
Not so much that, but I think that camp, that pre-season camp, and the fact that we were going up overnight and we're doing things properly, and I think that there felt like a definite regime change. Do you remember what was on the floor at camp?
Yep.
So I made a big deal that East Kilbride had our numbers, and I'd acquired an East Kilbride jersey. So I taped an East Kilbride jersey to the floor just before the team meeting rooms, just to emphasise that we're going to walk all over them.
I would like to say to anyone from East Kilbride that's listening, no one did anything untoward when it comes to that jersey. It was just there.
Yeah, look, and I've got a bunch of respect. I love the East Kilbride guys, and I've got a number of friends there who I'm really close to. But how do you get over the hump? How do you beat this team that's been your bogey team? Well, you need to really make an emphasis on it. So I knew that would go to East Kilbride, to Scotland, on an overnight trip, the first game of the season. So that was built into camp, how to beat East Kilbride. And then we turned them over. I think camp was huge that year. Building into that, winning a national, our first Northern Conference final, and then getting unceremoniously turned over by the Blitz in the semi-final. I think that was our denouement. That was again equally, I think, as important. That you don't have the success if you don't get embarrassed the previous year. So in the same way that East Kilbride were a bogey team, all of a sudden it was like, right, we're not going to be legit until we beat a London team. So the following year, again, more of the same, more kind of really sound play, building towards something special. And, myself and Dan and Al, I think Alan Steele is one of the great unheralded pieces that we added that year as a special teams coordinator and a defensive line coach. People talk about me and Martin and Dan. Steele, I think, was a huge part of that year as anything else. It took pressure off Martin, took pressure off me, and took pressure off Dan. And Al's a really good coach. So having that and then beating the Warriors at home, it felt like something was building all year long. it's always been, a process, and I'm a big fan of processes. The first year there, well, let's test our hand. Second year, well, we're not going to be legit until we beat East Kilbride twice. Then, all right, well, we're not going to be legit unless we beat a London team. And then we win a national final, and now we're on a streak against the Blitz, and we need to start turning over the Warriors again. But it's building something, and processes are really, really important.
And then I think that season was the season where we had the tagline of "They don't know," didn't we? I'm sure it was that season.
Yeah.
How important do you think that was? Because that was something that I think they were probably just 3 words that you could just say, and everyone on the team got it.
Yeah.
Everyone knew what we were talking about, and everyone got focused on what it was we were doing.
Well, again, it goes back to the doing the invisible, doesn't it? It goes back to the integrity. It goes back to the very core of what we are, is that people, and it's not just the opposition, it's people around the league, all the people just, on the forums and, oh, Tamworth haven't got a chance, this, that, and the other. But they don't know the hours that we put in. They have no clue about the level of detail that the coordinators put into game plans. They don't know the blood, sweat, and tears that we go through, the level of minutiae. You've been in Dan's scout meetings, and the amount of detail he puts into his online classroom, and the amount of detail I put into the scout that I put together. No one knows that. No one sees that. No one cares about that. They just turn up and they think, oh, well, I'm going to have a nice day out. I'm going to watch American football today. I'm going to go to Worcester and, see the London Blitz win a national championship because they're the best team in the country. And, they think they know about Tamworth, but they don't know. People don't know. If you extrapolate that to a business sense, what goes on in a boardroom, what goes on in the factory floor, what goes on in your own business, is entirely governed and dictated to by you. If you have a plan to win, and again, it goes back to the plan to win. What is the plan to win? How are you successful? And it goes, no one else knows that. No one else knows what you're plotting, what's going on inside of your head. No one sees the hours you pour into preparation and hiring and the rest of it. The agonizing over those business decisions, and whilst sport is more of a zero-sum game than business, where there's always got to be a winner and always got to be a loser, understand that the work that you do that isn't seen by anyone is important. It's more important than the work that's done that is seen by people. That preparation, the time you spend preparing a practice and in the gym and classroom and this, that, and the other, that's more important than the 4 quarters on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because championships are built in pre-season. They're built on every Thursday night when we practice. They're built, on online classrooms. They're not just given out and handed over. You don't just turn up and expect to win. Some people do.
Yeah.
Some people get beaten.
You've got to do the work. I mean, you can't sit back and then just turn up on game day and expect.
Can't cheat the grind. Can't cheat the grind.
Can't cheat the grind. And I think I frequently remind people, because this is somewhere where when someone tells you can't do something, I 100% hate that. And every time someone says it to me, I'll do my damnedest to prove them wrong and just do it for the sake of doing it, just because I can. Because I think one of the most important aspects of that is nobody really knows who you are. They don't know. Again, they don't know. They don't know what you've done, what you've been through in your personal life, coaching life, business life, what you've read, the information you've taken in, the experiences that you've had, and the fuel that you've got and the energy that you've got to be able to push forward and do the things that you want to do. Like, nobody knows that. So how anyone can ever judge and say that you can't do something is, to me, it's baffling.
Yeah. Absolutely. I've done some crazy things during my time of coaching. I, coaching the States for 5 years. I was on the sideline in a Power 5 game. I was coaching for the 100,000 people, because no one told me I couldn't.
We will get onto that in a second. I've got a couple of quick questions that I want to ask you. when it comes to pre-season camps,
Mm-hmm.
do you secretly enjoy when there's a little bit of kickoff and a little bit of a scrap? Because like it happens every year. I go into training camp knowing that Sunday afternoon around 4:00, there's going to be a scrap. There's going to be a fight. Not just because we're having a team scrimmage and it happens naturally in the game, but there's going to be some sort of headbutting and coming together, and you know, a little bit after the play and tensions are built up. Like, do you secretly enjoy that a little bit?
Yeah, because camp doesn't start until that happens, and it happens every camp. And my first experience of a proper camp was when I was at States, when I was at Endicott College, my first year, and it was one-on-one pass rushing. It was Kevin Egan, the aforementioned Kevin Egan, who is a phenom. Again, Sean Gaffney, who was our right tackle, who was like nasty and pissed off, and you know was a real good player. And you know, there's a bit of holding, a bit of cheap shots, and they went at it. And I'm like, that. What's happening? These two huge guys, both 6'4", 6'5", wailing away at each other. And the coach is like, yeah, it happens every year. And that kind of like, you know, it's good because it's not that they're fighting each other. It's that they want to get better, and it's the grind. You know, again, it's all about the process, isn't it? It's you do need that little bit kickback. Steel sharpen steel. You know, and fire the sharpest iron is forged in the hottest fire. You know, you need to have that competition. You need to be pissed off a little bit because you're going to get pissed off in games. You know, and as long as people shake hands afterwards, yeah, it's all good.
Well, it's always ended all right, hasn't it? My second question, again about training camp, is what actually goes on in your classrooms? Because I only ever have it from the offensive side, where we're kind of like, we go to a very nice boarding school. It is a nice place. And, you know, everything's well laid out for us. We're well taken care of, and we've got good classroom facilities. We go and sit in a room as an offense. And Dan is a very calm, relaxed, kind of quiet, methodical guy. So our meetings are very much like just everyone sits down. We could have a cup of tea. We could probably have our slippers on and a dressing gown and, you know, listen to what each other is saying, have a really good chat and a conversation. And then from across the hall in another classroom about 3 doors down, it literally sounds like tables are being flipped, chairs are being thrown around, you're slapping each other, you're having fights. I have no idea what's going on, what actually goes on in your classroom sessions, and why is it, where's the noise coming from? Why do you initiate that amount of energy?
Because that's what we are. We need to be, I think defensively, we need to be high energy. You know, we pride ourselves. So the moniker we've given ourselves is Project Havoc. So we pride ourselves on creating organized havoc everywhere we go and whatever we do. And I will recreate stressful situations in classroom for the players. So I'll throw, not literally throw, I go out, what's the answer to this? I'll put something up on the board and I go, okay, what are we doing here? What's the situation? And we'll ask it, but even better than that, asking the question, I'll get the pen and go, right, show me, put yourself in that situation. And, you know, there's kind of like, it's a bit of a zoo-like atmosphere where, you know, I say, right, we've got to get 7 questions right before we go to lunch. You're not leaving until you've got 7 questions. And you can see you'll get a rookie up there who's kind of a tentatively joined really small X's and O's. I can't see it.
If you, that's the thing. If you draw it small enough, no one can see it.
Yeah. So and you go, right, I want trips K-gun plus versus angle away flush, and you give them all this information. You can see them stressed out, and the pen goes to the board, and some of the vets go, oh, yes, that's right. And it's really good because, again, it's all about that collectivism and getting people excited and juiced up. And we have a laugh in there. It's exactly how it is on game day. It's a bit boisterous, it's a bit wild, it's a bit crazy, but that's how I coach. I want to coach with great intensity, with great emotion, with great feeling, with great passion. And that's not just on game days. That's every single time we're on the field or we're practicing or I'm doing the scout period or I'm doing indies or whatever I'm doing. That is who I am. That is what I'm doing as a coach. It doesn't matter that we're in a classroom in a very prim and proper private school, boarding school, you know, with, you know, pictures and posters and very quaint, genteel views. Everything we do is with passion, with great purpose.
So one of the other theories that I had was it's just a way for you to all try and keep Anton awake.
Yeah, well, that is another thing. That is another thing.
I find it incredible that he's able to fall asleep in his meetings.
Well, sometimes he misses morning sessions. He just stays in bed.
What is probably one of your worst moments as a coach?
I think anytime it's not necessarily losing, it's the feeling of letting people down. That, as a coach, my job is to put people in a position to succeed. And when they're not in a position to succeed, when you take your eye off the ball and believe your own hype a little bit too much, and don't do the due diligence, or you misstep or misdiagnose something or misread something, and as a coach, you're not out there. Now, I'm a firm believer in players win games, coaches lose them. I give bad information or don't prepare teams correctly. I think the big example of that is Copenhagen away. Where we went, we thought we were something good, and we got absolutely turned over in Copenhagen, and I took that really personally. I was annoyed at myself. I was frustrated. It's not a nice feeling where you want the very best for people and you don't allow them to succeed. And the other one I think was Brit Bowl 32 in Leeds, where we lost against the Warriors. I think we could have and should have won the game. We didn't. I think I over prepared for that game. I think as a reaction to Copenhagen, I put too much preparation. I think we got paralysis by analysis a little bit too much. So again, I don't think I put the players in a position to succeed. And that's the worst thing, is knowing that something bad's happened and it's my fault. Not the guys on the field. I can't fault the effort because everyone's there, everyone's working hard. No one wants to lose. But if I give them bum information or don't prepare them correctly, then it's on me. And that's why I can never get mad at people who, have technical flaws, because it's on the coaching staff to coach that out of them.
Yeah. See, I can't comment on that national final because I was personally unavailable.
Yeah.
What did, obviously two very good examples there with the Copenhagen game and that final. What was your process like in reflecting and learning and understanding what you can take from that and how you can use those experiences to either avoid it or do it differently next time?
I think I always allow myself some what I call hippo time. Right. So my hippo time is where I wallow in self-pity. Right. And it's an evening or it's a day, and I'm
familiar with hippo time.
Yeah, and I sulk. Right. But as soon as that hippo time's over, that's it. I'm done. And right, okay, how do I learn from it? Let's watch tape. Let's analyze and critically review every process, and not overanalyze things, but certainly think about the processes where we went wrong. It's like reading a route map, isn't it? You get lost along the way. Well, should I have turned to take a second left and a third left? Is the route I took correct? So you need to reflect, but not get too critical, because the route you took felt right at the time. So there must be a reason behind you doing that. Well, what was the thought process? If you can justify that, then it's fine. So that's I think that's my process really, is it's review, don't overanalyze, don't overthink it. It was right at the time. Why was it right at the time? Could you have done anything differently?
Do you think it's important to get the emotion away from that review process? Have that hippo time where you do go off and sulk, have a tantrum, kind of sit around in a bit of self-pity, maybe for half an hour a day, whatever it is. Get that out of the system so that you can then critically reflect.
Yeah, I get it. I am hyper competitive, but not just for me. Again, it goes back to, I put people in a bad situation. I hate that. I hate hurting others. Football's a team game. My decision reflects on the entire organisation. So decisions I make, and that's what I kind of almost got to punish myself, I think. With the hippo time, I've got to kind of get rid of the emotion and go, get annoyed at myself. And I know full well that no one blames me or even, know that I'm going through that process. But to look at it in the cold light of day, one of my great mentors, Bobby Holmes, who was my defensive coordinator at Endicott, said it best. Look, as long as the sun comes up tomorrow morning, everything's fine. You can't get too high or too low, and that's kind of my the way I review things is I'll have a sulk for that evening, and then tomorrow morning, as long as the sun comes up, I'm all right, and we can watch tape and we can review things.
And in that kind of, probably term it as, well, obviously you termed it hippo time, but in that grieving process, is that where it's very important to have very, very understanding, caring people around you to look after you, leave you alone at the right time, say the right thing? How important is that family environment in that situation?
Yeah, it is. But I think people just kind of know that, just to leave me alone a little bit. I didn't go out after the Copenhagen game and the national final because I was annoyed, and I think I would have been terrible company, to be honest. And my roommates just left me to it, which is what I wanted. I couldn't have shown my face really, because I was embarrassed. For me, not for anyone else. So yeah, I think that certainly the coaches and my trusted generals know me well enough. They'll check on me, send me a text, and it's fine.
I want to move away from bad experiences now. Bad times. I want you to.
I mean, what's really good? What's really good though is that is also a fuel, because I don't lose many games. We don't lose many games. Those memories cut deep. And so make sure that you learn from those mistakes, and and it's all good from there, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I do remember after we got beat by Copenhagen, I did go out that evening. And I remember pretty much my entire evening was probably walking around Denmark, trying to find people, or talking. We were all just talking to each other about how we're gonna go and do this, we're gonna go and do that. When we play these, we're gonna do this. And I think a little bit in that same sense that you said there, using that as fuel to the fire and using that to kind of stoke you up, get yourself in the right mindset and prepare yourself for the rest of the season. Because I have no doubt that for every single one of us on that day, I mean, we all felt that loss pretty big. But that was a huge learning curve for us. I think that was our first game in European competition against one of Europe's very, very good teams that were like halfway through the season, and that was our first game. And as bad as it was, I think, for myself, putting that into perspective and framing it that way to then use that for us going forwards in the rest of the season, probably helped us even get to another national championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the adversity. It's victory is forged in the fires of defeat, isn't it? You need to really appreciate the bad times and the losses to really strive for the wins.
Yeah.
Looking back last weekend, I know Ohio State, when they beat Clemson, were particularly fueled by losing to Clemson this time last year. It's one of those things that, got a lot of memory, and if you think something's been wrong, not often in life you get a chance to make those wrongs right. So when you do, you want to make sure you grab it.
Talk to me about some of the positives. Go through your time in the States and obviously how that started and then where it went and how it ended up with you being part of the coaching staff operating at one of the colleges that was number one in the nation.
Weird, isn't it? A lad from Lancashire going to coach in Mississippi, the best team in the country at the time. I'd been coaching in.
Hold on, sorry, just 1 second. Have they been number one since?
No.
Well, we know why.
Obviously
so
not.
There we go.
I've been coaching 6 years now. I'm a firm believer in being the best version of you that you can be. You know, I'm not in this to be good. I want to be great. I want to learn. I want to grow. I want to be, make sure that I'm growing, but I'm able to put people in a position to succeed. So you get to a level in the UK, and I think your knowledge starts to stagnate a little bit, because outside of the coaching conventions where you get a handful of American coaches coming to talk about scheme or this, that, and the other, there was a finite amount of knowledge in the UK. As soon as you've spoken to the same 4, 5, 6 guys about a 4-3 or spread or whatever, you're plateauing. And I was getting too confident, too comfortable in what we were doing. It was like I wasn't excited. We're really successful at Loughborough. I was there for 6 years. I think we were 46-6 in the regular season. Went to 2 national finals. Tamworth had been promoted from Division 2 to Division 1. We had a really good season the following year, and then got promoted from Division 1 to the Premier League. So we were doing pretty well. So I sent out a bunch of emails out to schools in the US and Canada, on the East Coast primarily, just because it's easy to fly from Manchester and Birmingham and Heathrow to the East Coast. It's a lot cheaper as well.
Logistics.
And JB Wells got back in touch with me. He was at Endicott College. He said, look, I understand what you guys are going through. I've been to Italy before. I've been to Ireland before. I get it. I want to bring a touring team over. Can I come over and do some stuff? I said, absolutely. So we did the Griffin Bowl, where an all-star team of Loughborough and some Americans, 8 Americans that came over, because it was during the massive Wall Street crash. So it wasn't as easy to fly, and the pressure, money wasn't there. Played Tamworth, and we had a great time in Loughborough. Everyone went to Echoes, and everyone had a great time, and yada, yada, yada. They enjoyed that, so I went over the following year to do pre-season. I coached tight ends in pre-season, coached some great guys, and they got a real kick out of having the English guy around, and it was a real kind of opportunity for me to really see a proper Division 3 school, American college, how pre-season worked, how practice plan worked, how it all fit together. I had my ideas of where I was, and I think in that stage I was consciously incompetent. I knew what I knew, but realistically, and I use this phrase many times, in the UK, it was like building with Lego bricks to go and work on a construction site full size in the States. That's the equivalency. Is that I know some fundamentals about construction, how to build things and this, that, and the other. You can't do this, you can't do that. But when you go over to the States and see it for real, in the minute detail, you go, wow, okay, my mind's blown. So we did that, went back, put it out into action at Tamworth and at Loughborough. And then the Americans came over. We did the Griffins tour to Amsterdam, where 96 people went to Amsterdam and played the Amsterdam Panthers, which I think took about 5 years off my life because I organised it and my name was on all the insurance documents. So yeah, they liked me enough that JB said, "Look, come and work for me. Come over, and we can't pay you, but we come over and give it a shot." So I sold all my worldly possessions and went to the States and coached the defensive line. They liked me so much that they offered me a deal the following year. So I was there for another 2 years after that. And we were really successful. That Endicott team, over the 4 years I was part of it, we won 2 conference championships and 2 ECAC bowl games. I think we only lost 4 games over that 4-year period. So really, really successful team. And as a result, the successful coaches kind of get picked off. Tony Volpone, who was, offensive coordinator, but was really good for me for, breaking down film and scheme and recruitment and how to work with athletes. And he's a real inspiration for me on his man management skills. He went off to get a head coaching job at Castleton State in Vermont. Drew Kanan who was our special teams coordinator, wide receivers coach. He was picked up by Assumption, went to go coach Division 1 football under Bob Chesney, and people got picked apart, and it never felt the same. And I applied for the defensive coordinator's job because Bobby Holmes, there was a bit of a falling out with the coaching staff, and I applied for the defensive coordinator's job and didn't get it, and I was a bit pissed off, to be honest. Because that was a big opportunity for me to stay at Endicott, and I loved my time there. And my best friends in the world are in Beverly, Massachusetts, and I still speak to. Bobby Holmes is such a huge mentor of mine. A lot of our defense at Tamworth and the stuff I run and the stuff I believe in is literally Bobby, and some of the phrases I've come up with, that's Bobby Holmes, I've only got one punch left, don't make me waste it on you. That's Bobby Holmes. It's a Bobbyism. So he's a huge part of my who I am. And Jody Sapola, who's a field hockey coach, and George Chapel's the men's volleyball coach, great friends of mine. Love them to bits, speak to them loads, speak to them all the time. They're very much part of me and who made me who I am, because when you're a Division 3 school, you're not just a football coach. I was part of contest management. I was in marketing promotions. I did a little bit of everything. So I was out in the community, and I loved my experience in Division 3. So nothing really happened. And then I always stayed in touch with Jeff Collins, who came to the British American Football Coaches Association convention. And we kind of bonded over love of sports psychology and some like Subbuteo and some things like that. And I'd gone to Mississippi State to work the summer camp the previous year. So he said, look, if you're still struggling for the job, come down and work for me. So sure thing. That next fall, my first game was LSU at LSU. In front of 110,000, working for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Coached against Texas Tech, Texas A&M, Auburn. We were the fastest non-ranked team to rise to number 1 in the history of college football. Beat LSU, beat Texas A&M, beat Auburn, and just had a really good run. Number 1 team in the nation. Dak Prescott was our quarterback. Bernardrick McKinney was inside linebacker, Preston Smith, Chris Jones. I mean, we were loaded. The team that was more loaded was Alabama. We went to Alabama where we were number 1. They were number 3, I think. And they turned us over. That was ridiculous. So standing, again, talking about a surreal moment, standing at Bryant-Denny Stadium, seeing Nick Saban opposite me, and their backfield that year was Derrick Henry, TJ Yeldon, and Kenyon Drake.
Done all right for themselves as well, haven't they?
It's all right, isn't it? So it's, again, I believe that had great support. I mean, talk about mentors, Bobby Holmes and Jeff Collins. Jeff, while Bobby kind of gave me the playbook aspect, Jeff was a different beast in terms of his man management, how he talked to people, and how he was the minister of mayhem. So that's how I styled myself, is like being very enthusiastic and everything. So it was just a great 4 or 5 years. And, when it all ended, Jeff got hired by Florida before the bowl game. We were due to go and play Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl. He got hired away, and I came home for Christmas. And I think one of my biggest regrets is I didn't fly back for the bowl game, because I knew there wasn't a job there for me, and it was expensive to fly at New Year, and I would have missed a friend's wedding again. So, it was a whirlwind time. It's some of my best friends I've met for life, and I still stay in touch with the guys at State, and I still in touch with the guys at Endicott, certainly. And it was a great time, and I make peace with that, because if I never coach a game of football ever again, I've had a great run. I've done some amazing things. I've met some amazing people. I've won a lot of games. I've seen things that no one else will have seen. Battleships on fire off the coast of Orion. So it's, yeah, I've experienced things. You know, being part of a team that is number one in the nation because no one told me I couldn't. You know, I believed in it, so I did it.
Let's. I don't want to talk too much about what happens if you never coach another game again, because in the current climate, I really don't want to tempt fate.
You're not wrong.
No. What's the reality of coaching at that level at Mississippi State, number one in the nation? Like college, like literally college football for people that aren't particularly familiar with American football. College football in the States, it doesn't actually, like the NFL probably isn't much. Would you sum it up as being bigger? Would you sum it up as being more important? Like it's very, very tribal, isn't it? And in terms of scale, the crowds you get, the intensity, the level and the focus and the attention that's put on it, not just like as coaches or players, but from the media and the outside world, it doesn't really get much bigger, does it? It's huge.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I was part of the biggest conference. I was part of the Southeastern Conference, the SEC. And the catchline of the SEC is it just means more. And it is, I'm in the Bible Belt, it's Jesus, and it's NASCAR, and it's college football. They're the three things. And again, minutiae, the level of attention to detail. And one of my jobs as quality control was looking at tape and looking at film and determining whether we could get a read on a certain play if the slot receiver in this formation's right foot was up or his left foot was up. You know, it's that level of how do we get a competitive advantage? Because the fact of the matter is the best team to the worst team in the NFL. You know, people think it's like, you know, the Kansas City Chiefs are, if they're a 100 out of 100 team, they ranked 100. And like the New York Jets, like 20 or 15 or 10, they're useless. The fact of the matter is the best team is, 99, 100. The New York Jets or the Jacksonville Jaguars, they're still like an 87. They're still a really good team. They're still the experts in their field. With college football, the disparity is so much bigger. So whilst you've got like the Alabamas and, you know, the LSUs and the Ohio States and the Clemsons, you've also got the minnows, and on any given Sunday you can turn them over. And, you know, some of the greatest things in college football are those underdog wins. And like I said, Mississippi State, we were unranked. We beat 3 ranked teams on consecutive weeks, and no one's expecting us to do that. And it's tribal, you know, and people, the stadiums are some of the biggest stadiums in the world are college football stadiums. You know, Beaver Stadium at Penn State, 111,000. The Horseshoe at Ohio State, 110,000. Death Valley, LSU, 100,000. Neyland Stadium in Tennessee, 100,000. Bryant-Denny in Alabama, 100,000. These are massive cathedrals of football. And my work was, you know, you'd have game day, which was the release of the week. Sunday, you'd break down the game that you've just played and start looking ahead to the week. And my heavy lifting really started Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where Monday, my day would start at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, making sure that everything was clipped and ready for the meeting at 8 o'clock with the players, because the players have all got classes to go to. So we'd have a morning meeting, then have breakfast, and then they'll go to their classes. And then we'd start preparing for the for practice and the classroom after that, and clipping that and breaking that down. And every day would have a different focus. So one day would be 1st and 10 or openers and formations. And those days where I was in at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't go to bed and pretty much until maybe 4 o'clock the following morning, because you're looking at all this tape and you break it down. It has to be correct. It has to be right. You know, all the formations, all the tendencies for, you know, 5, 6, 7 games, just looking at the 1st and 10 plays. You know, they're drilling down, and then you're looking at, you know, why is this 2 receivers outside of formation with the running back offset to the right? why is, the outside receivers are on the line, the inside receivers are off the line? Why is that different to that? Why are the two inside receivers now on the line and the outside guys off the line? Why? And asking those questions, being critical about, okay, this is a reason. Everything's done for a reason. Why? And that's one thing I really brought into my coaching in the UK, is ask yourself why. There's no original thoughts in American football. There's a reason why people are split out wide or in tight, or there's 3 receivers to the boundary and 1 guy to the wide side of the field. There's answers to everything.
Yeah.
Why are they doing what they're doing? So those long days, and sleepless nights, really kind of, again, success forging the hottest flames and hottest fires. Well, that was the hot year that year, and I was, barely keep my nose above water at times. The speed everything was going and understanding things, and but it was awesome. I wouldn't change it for the world. It's a very challenging profession, coaching Division 1. But it was, and I'm very thankful for Coach Collins to give me the opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say, how challenging was that as a lifestyle? How much kind of
it wasn't lifestyle. It wasn't a lifestyle, because at Endicott, it was, like I say, I was football coach and would have practice in the evening, but during the day, I was able to hang out with the other graduate assistants, go for lunch, hang out in, with Coach Sapolo in the field hockey office, do some marketing promotions, do this, that, and the other. Enjoy the sun, enjoy the scenery, enjoy the sea air and everything. At State, between Mondays and Wednesdays, I rarely stepped foot outside of the building, the football facility. If I did, it was to go home and to sleep and then to come back. Some days I slept in the facility. I had a storage closet that I slept in, that had no air conditioning, so it was warm, and there was no emergency lighting, so I could sleep. So there's some nights where I'd get 2 hours sleep, if that, 3 hours sleep, and be up again ready to go. So in terms of a lifestyle, it is, you need to be a bit of a sadist and kind of, have to be, so dialed in on football. And, I was, and I love football, and I still do, but it's a very, very, very challenging, and yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
What drove you to be willing to do those? Because I mean, you're not please say this the right way, but you're not a normal guy. You're not average by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. So what drove you to do those things and take those actions and, sleep in probably a 100-degree storage closet in Mississippi in the middle of summer? What drove you to do those things? Why did you do it? I know we've spoken already about, you want to give people the best opportunity to win. You want to put the team in a position to win. You want to win yourself. Why do you think you were willing to go and do those things? Because most people wouldn't. Most people would take the easy way out. You're in Mississippi, you're from the UK, you can go wander around, do whatever you want. You're at a big college. You could take the easy route and go and enjoy yourself. And I say enjoy yourself, but relax a bit, chill out, and take it in.
Again, I think it goes back to the first things we talked about, is holding each other accountable. And I was hired to do a job, and I'm very proud about the job I do. I want to do the best for whoever I work for, or whatever scenario. Or it doesn't matter that I'm a head coach or a coordinator in the UK. I want to put people in a position to succeed, and I owe it to them. In the same way, I was hired by a guy who wanted to be the best. I owe it to him to be the best version that I could be, to allow him to be the best version. Again, it goes back to the I am who I am because of who we are who we are because of who I am. It's that collectivism that I didn't want to let anyone down. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to win games on Sundays. I wanted to put people in a position to succeed, and I wanted to get a little bit of pissed off for greatness. I wanted to say to people in the UK that, look, you can do this. It is possible. That regardless of your background and your origins, you can do whatever you wanted to do. And I had lots of love and support from my friends and family whilst I was over there, and it was a great time. And I wanted to do them proud as much as anything else as well. Yeah.
I'm literally just scribbling everything down. So like even were there any moments where you thought, do you know what, this is hard, I need to go to bed, or I'm tired, I'm done, I've had enough for today? Or were there any moments like that where it was incredibly tough?
Lots of times where because everyone will know, Eleanor will tell you, Malachi will tell you that I'm my most grumpy when I'm tired. I'm my most grumpy when I'm hungry, and there's that year where I was so tired, like dog tired, but you just can't get through it. And because I was alone for the great sense, for all intents and purposes, and I'm very much a no man is an island. I'm a creature that needs to feel people around them. And whilst I was part of a team, when you're a small cog in a big machine, you are just driven to turn over and produce these results. So it's that success is my success criteria there was focused on one thing. I had no chance to freelance or do everything else, or I'm quite a, like I say, expressive, and I'll kind of wander off, I let my mind wander off and do other things. I was fixed on one job. And sometimes that flywheel got pretty hot and got pretty worn out. So it was really, really hard to go from a quite expansive role at Endicott, where I had more freedom, not just in football, but in the wider athletic community, to just being details. One job. It's all got to do one job. And not a day went by where Jeff Collins didn't threaten to deport me. All in jest, of course, all in jest. And again, one of the things that I took was, he never, ever let me forget is never underestimate the importance of correct information. If he ever mistyped something, so he didn't hit the filter, never underestimate the importance of correct information. I'll deport your ass. Get it right. Get out of here. Yes, but it was hard. But the level of focus, and when you are worn down, getting that detail right is hard.
Was there any moment where you didn't get it right?
There's plenty of moments, but that's part of there's many people in that machine. We all made mistakes that year, and whether it's a small mistake, and I don't think I made a gross, massive mistake that led to something bad happening, but it was certainly a year.
I think it's probably fair to say your career so far, that's important, so far in coaching has been pretty significant, pretty amazing. What was it that drove you into that in the first place? Where did that passion come from?
I think throughout my life, I want to get back deep into it. I think throughout my life, I've always been into sport, and I've often wondered myself what was the catalyst. I honestly, I go back to primary school, and as a wee young boy in short shorts collecting stickers, and being excited when I got the Falkirk or Heart of Midlothian shiny, which I needed to finish my collection. It was funny because there was always two teams playing football in the yard at break time. There was the cool kids and there was the not so cool kids. And I kind of had a foot in both camps. So I was not quite cool enough to be a cool kid, but not kind of like not cool to be one of the not cool kids. So there's always in like year 6, they play football against each other. Well, I said, there's another way to do this. So I recruited a bunch of kids from year 5 to play football, and they were part of my team. So I kind of like, and I operated this third team, this kind of rogue limb, and we won a load of games, and we had a lot of fun. And so I kind of recruited and picked and chose and found a team that worked for me. And that year, my first really experience of organised sport, I was a goalkeeper for the New Longton primary school, and we lost every single game. and we lost every single game handily. 7-0, 9-0, 10-0, 5-0. I think that really, I've not really lost since, because going to school and playing rugby at school and playing for the Preston Grasshoppers rugby union team, we were hugely talented. We were the best team in the country. We had guys who went on to play for England, both at school and at club. I played for Lancashire and hugely successful. And there were, you are some of your total experiences, and the coaches I had, I think, at those levels were hugely important in my life. And growing up, I was always interested in American sports, and I think as an impressionable young boy, and I wanted to absorb as much sport as I could. So I'd watch Disney's Wild World of Sports on a Sunday morning with some weird kind of horse sport from Spain, and then kayaking from France, and then skydiving from Brazil, and all these weird sports. And straight after that was the Channel 4's NFL coverage. So I watched that transfixed as like 9-10-year-old, go, wow, this is exciting. I don't know whether it was Thatcher and Reagan, Concord, Dallas and Dynasty on TV, the A-Team, all this Americana permeating my life. I was transfixed by American football, so always followed it throughout my rugby career. And then when I got to sixth form, I think I'm quite a smart guy. Never really tested well. Did okay in my GCS, did okay in my levels. Knew full well that I wouldn't get the grades to go to what I would consider a proper university. I love sport. I wanted to go to Loughborough. That was my thing, So I applied to do a scholarship, went to Canada for a year. And that's where I first played American football. We won there. We were undefeated. Best season they've ever had. And whilst I was there, I applied to Loughborough on a whim, because they had one space left on my UCAS form, and they were the first school to come back to me and offer me an unconditional offer. Went to Loughborough, got engrossed in the competitive nature in that, not just in sport, but in whole life, in charity and community action, being the very best, and driven by success. I think ever since then, it's like, how can I be part of a successful team, and how can I encourage people and spur people on to do great things? And that's important.
I speak a lot about your environment is crucial to you being able to perform to a high level, live to an elite level, and get the most out of yourself. Loughborough is definitely that, isn't it?
Almost to a fault though, because I went to Loughborough to play rugby, and
thank God you didn't.
And I fell out of love with rugby at Loughborough because of not the level of detail. It was the wrong sort of team environment for me. It was focusing on all the wrong things. And I wanted to get better, and I think one of my great disappointments with rugby is it turned into who you knew and not what you could do. And again, that plagued me throughout my rugby career in school. Is I went to a state school. I didn't go to a public school, a private school, and so my face didn't necessarily fit in some of the teams that were selected. I knew I was plenty good enough because I played for Lancashire clubs, but because I didn't go to an Arnold or a King Edwards or a Lancaster Grammar, I didn't get picked. So, and again, it was more of the same at Loughborough for me. Being part of the rugby team is I wasn't part of the establishment. I did things a different way. So I was already falling out of love with rugby as it was, but now I knew American football was there for me. Joined the American football team at Loughborough, and then I think, again, talk about the pillars of my coaching history. Andy Sweeney is the other guy who needs the credit to who really made me the player I was, making me the coach I was. Because I think I was a good player. I don't think I was a great player. I mean, I made all college teams. I made, Northern All-Stars and this, that, and the other. I was, I think I was good for my time. Was I one of the all-time greats? Nah. But that allowed me to be one of the pretty good coach, I think.
got to back you up on Andy Sweeney as well there. He's absolutely a top guy. I remember playing for GB students. I remember getting selected for that. And this was pretty much as I started getting into American football. I'd not really played. I think my first game was actually for Tamworth against East Kilbride. And then just a couple of months later, we were playing for Great Britain against Sweden as a student team. I remember me and Andy went numerous times to one of the rubber crumb pitches, and I would literally just punt a ball back and forwards to him until I think either my shin was bruised or bleeding. I think, because I was that bad at it at that point in time, I was terrible. But he spent an awful lot of time with me, helping me improve and practicing. So
I think Andy, one thing that you get from Andy is, again, honesty and integrity. He will, if you're doing something wrong, he will tell you. Or he'll give you that disappointed father look, which coincidentally he actually gives his own sons when I'm watching him coach at Tamworth junior team. So it's great to see the circles complete. And again, in the belly, not the back, he'll tell you if you're underperforming, and he'll be honest with you, not personal, but he'll.
I think sometimes as well when it comes, we talk about the disappointed look. Sometimes it's just that the intake of breath before the look occurs, where it's like that. And you already sense what's coming. You already know. You just think, oh, man, I screwed up. Anyway, obviously, we know where you got started, what drove you in the first place. What inspires you to keep on going now? From someone that last lost as a 10-year-old playing football, being a goalkeeper, what inspires you to keep on going now? Having done everything you've done, you're now the national team head coach.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Two things: putting people in a position to succeed and allowing them to reach their potential, and being the best version of me that I can be. It's like the path to enlightenment. Can I be the best version of me? Can I be the perfect coach? Can I achieve enlightenment, if you will? But part of that for me is allowing others to enjoy success and have the experience that I had as a player and I had as an assistant coach, by giving them the experience that I had and creating a new generation of coaches and players and people who love the sport. And like I said, it's a ridiculous sport. It looks absolutely absurd, but I love it, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
I think you've done a very, very good job of that. I have got a couple more questions for you. Mm-hmm. So I know I don't even know how long we've been chatting for, nearly 2 hours now.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple more questions for you, probably a little bit more quick fire. And I did ask earlier for some submissions from our group.
Yeah, okay.
For a couple of questions. I have got one, and it has come in from Anonymous.
Okay.
So I can't tell you who.
But can we just call it out for a second? Because I've only got 8% left on my battery, so I need to get my charger. So 1 second, I'll be back.
So, question, I'm just going to pull it up.
By Anonymous.
Yeah, by Anonymous.
Yeah.
What player? I must apologise to the person that has asked me this question, but I don't know whether they want me to read it as 2 questions or 1. I'm just going to read it as it's written. So if you're upset with me, it's the way you've written the question, so you can't complain. What player has cost you the most yards, and what can Dan Shadipo do to not cost you more yards?
What players cost me the most yards? I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't remember those things. I think I cost me yards, whether I'm arguing with officials, which I shouldn't do, or putting, again, not coaching people up the right way. So it's my fault. I mean, some of the things that Dan does, it just beggars belief. I wish he wouldn't trying to hurdle over every single person on the field. I wish he would understand that he's plenty fast enough and doesn't have to jump offside. And he just needs to stop hitting quarterbacks so hard, because he got 2 15-yard penalties, I remember one game, and the referee said it's because he hit him too hard. But honestly, I think it wouldn't be Dan. It certainly wouldn't be Dan. That is the first name that popped in my head. Will Hobbs.
Will Hobbs.
So yeah, no, it's one of those things, isn't it? And I've played with some guys who really play tough and skirt the line. You know these names maybe from Loughborough, but Sam Whittle was very much skirted. John Paul Jones, Ash Miller, physical tough guys. And they would push and push and push. They weren't necessarily what I would say dirty. They were just physical. And then there's people who like to have fun.
What is the most outrageous thing you've seen on a football field? See, I've got possibly a couple of
athletically.
Anything, even if it's a referee with his pants down. The most outrageous thing you've seen on the football field?
I remember we played at Coventry one year where the side judge on our sideline passed out for heat.
I remember. Would I have been playing? I'm sure. Yeah, I remember that.
You scored rushing touchdowns that game.
Yeah.
Coventry Sphinx.
Yeah.
Yeah. On
something I used to do.
I mean, some of the things that some of the more talented. I mean, so I have had the fortune to coach some wonderfully gifted players. I mean, current company completely included, because some of the things I've seen you do with the ball, right? 2 onside kicks back to back, putting on a dime. I say, Lenny, we need it here and here, and it happens. So some of the stuff you can do with the ball is second to none. But some of the things like Fizeo can do, we've got a guy at Nottingham who's just been selected to the NFL development program, AO. Some of the things he did were phenomenal. I remember we played at Durham. The slot receiver ran a seam and was literally 10 yards beyond him. And he turned around and chased it down with a 20-yard head start and caught him like he was stood still. He does some phenomenal things. I'm never, ever shocked by Steve Gregory. He just continues to do amazing things. Ben Davis, not only did the pick 6 in the national final, but the pick in the game that we lost against Manchester, phenomenal. The pick in the semi-final against the Blitz this last time, phenomenal. He just does ridiculous things. Pat Daly in the national final, pirouetting 20 times and wriggling free. I mean, Pat Daly doing Pat Daly things. But before that, I coached his older brother, Jack. He did ridiculous things. So it's the Daly gene. I coached Rod Bradley, who is, for me, the prototype American footballer. He was, big, strong, fast, quick, had great hands, great personality, just phenomenal. He went on to be on TV's Gladiators. He did ridiculous things. I'm blessed to be amazed on a regular basis by the guys who have coached and the guys who I go to battle with every week. It's awesome.
So you mentioned about coaching a lot of great players. You've recently spent probably the last through December, wasn't it, where you asked for everyone to nominate their top 15 players of all time for the Tamworth Phoenix, and you're putting together the top 50.
Yeah.
Am I in it?
You're somewhere in the top 50.
Oh,
somewhere.
You're not going to give anything away.
So you were going to make the countdown. I'm not at liberty to say whether you're 40s or 30s or anywhere else. So you've done okay. You've done okay.
Is it respectable?
Respectable, yeah. You picked up a lot of single. I think people felt sorry for the kickers, so you got a lot of single point votes.
I was going to say, British kickers. Well, they don't really exist, do they?
No.
Why?
No. Because they want to do other things. It's like British coaches, they'd rather be playing. I think there's a real lack of British coaches on a very serious political note. There's a lack of coaches in the senior league because I think people want to play on into their 40s and 50s. I mean, I'm 41. I've been retired since I was 27. So people just need to focus. If you're a good kicker, you don't need to play anything else. You don't need to play running back because you'll only get hurt, won't you? So if you want to coach. Don't try and burn don't do yourself an injustice by not dedicating yourself to one thing.
Yeah. I would suggest for anyone that's listening as well and maybe thinking about retiring and stopping playing, it might be well worth considering. Just go and do that. Yeah. Go and coach. Go and get involved as a coach. Don't be a referee. No one wants to be a referee.
No.
Don't be a coach. Like I think you've said a couple of times already, American football is a crazy game, stupid sport. I remember, playing one or two games and then going into the gym to work the next day and train people and pretty much sitting down to eat my lunch and just kind of crying into my lunch, feeling really down and depressed because I think I was definitely concussed. I remember going checked out for concussion, but that's legitimately happened to me. So just, you will get hurt, you will get injured. It's not a sport you undertake for the good of your health, is it?
No.
Well, definitely go and play it if you haven't done it.
Definitely.
Right, your top 3 inspiring coaches that have had the biggest impact or maybe the most significant impact on your coaching style.
I think I've already spoken to them at length. I think chronologically, Andy Sweeney, my first American football coach. And whilst I had a coach in Canada, it wasn't quite the same. He was the guy who really took it seriously. And again, to use a phrase I've used over and again, put me in a position to succeed. And I had the opportunity to play with some great players, and they really gave me the responsibility and trusted me. And I think the way he is was not for everyone, but it would certainly work for me. So Andy, I think, who gave me the start. I think Bobby Holmes at Endicott College gave me the playbook and gave me friendship and just, again, his work ethic, I think, more than anything else. I was talking to him the other day about the Sunday morning. So we'd get up, we'd play the game on Saturday. We'd always go to Fibber McGee's after the game, have some beers, and Bobby always insisted on paying. And we'd all talk about the game and relax. And then the next morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, we'd break down film and start discussing what we're doing. He'd always listen to my ideas. Everyone had a position. Again, if it was a terrible idea, he'd tell me so. But, Bobby is a great friend of mine and someone who I care about and think about very deeply, and he's a good dude. And then Jeff Collins, who showed me that passion and insanity is a good thing in a coach, because he is mental. That kind of fine line between genius and insanity, that people say that I'm a little bit mad, but I think you need to have that screw loose to be able to unlock something deep within you that you're not scared to be a little bit like a berserker and just go a little bit crazy and a little bit wild and have some fun, and I think it's that childlike, infectious enthusiasm. I think that those certainly 3 are the most important to me. And I think after that, you look at Paul Sherratt, I think about Orlando Weeks, I think about Jay Alexander, I think about Dan Smith and Alan Steele, and there's lots of coaches. I think every single coach who I interact with, it inspires me. I've got a great coaching staff at GB and Duncan Burford and Spoonie and Matthew Davis. So they're the big 3, but there's lots and lots of coaches who have informed who I am, and I'm very grateful for every single one of them.
Yeah, I think that, just going back to what you said about that madness and genius, that fine line between it, I think that streak of madness shows that you think a little bit differently. I think as soon as you are thinking exactly the same way as everybody else, you're not getting ahead, are you? You're kind of falling into line, falling into pattern with everyone around you. Give me your top 3 moments and these can be plays, they can be interactions, they can be anything that occurred. Your top 3 moments from our national championship season.
Okay. Any time that Raffaello Mazzucci did something, because Raf, God love him, Raf is a great athlete, he's a great person, he works really hard. When he's running around the field, he looks quite athletic, but walking to practice, he's got the body of a 6-year-old man. He kind of hobbles around and he doesn't move in the most smooth way. And I converted him from a defensive end to an outside linebacker. And I think Raf is a great example of, if you work hard, you're going to get it. We have this drill called the Nico drill, where you pin the elbow and you strip the ball out, and it's something that we build into our practice. And seeing him execute that flawlessly and score a touchdown at home, and then another thing we talk about when you're the boundary linebacker, you've got a slant coming behind you, just go back. And in the semi-final against the Warriors, he just went back and could have picked it off. And this is the great thing. One of his greatest moments is where he did make a play. It just slipped through his hands, but seeing the penny drop, and that's what made him a really good coach. And I think he's going to be a really good one, is that for me at Nottingham, and he's part of the GB setup, and he'll be hopefully a coach at Tamworth when he retires. He understands, what I'm asking him to do, because he's gone through those processes, those difficult mental blocks where he didn't quite get it, and then the penny dropped. So he's really good at unlocking potential. So Raf was incredible. I think Will Hussey's touchdown against the Warriors in the semi-final, the fade that was perfectly caught, and the reaction of Lewis Thomas. If you look at the film of that, the reaction of Lewis Thomas, the disbelief and kind of amazement and excitement on his face is incredible. Then you get Dan's very kind of stoic face that is trying not to smile and laugh and get excited. And then the defensively, we're doing a little team talk. So I'm facing the field, and the guys the defensive guys there, and I tell them, I don't want you looking at the field. Look at me. Look at me. I see a ball in the air, and I'm distracted. And the ball comes down, and everyone turns around, so you can see it in the picture, the long shot of Will catching his ball, is that we're kind of doing this. So that was a really good moment. Equally in that game, Will Hobbs being a pest to everyone on the sideline.
I remember this. Very well.
Ringing a bell.
So just need to frame it. So Will Hobbs wasn't playing for us that season, was he?
No, because he'd just come back from wherever.
Yeah, so he'd been off gallivanting around in Europe, hadn't he? Yeah. And I remember the first game he was back, I think it was on a freezing cold, wet, windy, rainy day.
No, that was the previous season when he was injured. He was concussed. There was something wrong with him where he couldn't play. He was injured. That was the previous season.
Oh, was he injured?
Against Lancashire. He was unable to play that game.
Right. So, but what he did, and I think this kind of led up to him being the pest, the nuisance, the pain in the ass. And I thought this was amazing. He basically came out in his underpants with a cape, a Mexican wrestling mask, and did he have a vuvuzela as well? And he was making so much noise. And we talked about, again, right at the very start of this, we talked about the importance of the sideline and everyone doing their bit. And I think he massively contributed by being that guy. But yeah, what focus about what he did against the Warriors?
Yeah, he was a pest. He was just making noise. He was chatting to them. He went around to their sideline and rang bells at them. He was just an irritant. And I was a little bit embarrassed, but it was just one of those things where I look back and go, how does he have the cojones to get away with the things he does? Again, genius is a speck in the horizon for Will. He's just insane. But God love him.
He specifically went to wind up Vernon Kay as well, didn't he?
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah. And again, I think the other moment, it's the moment before the moment. So we got changed in the bar All right. So our changing rooms were upstairs in the hospitality lounge. And they cleared the floor space, and we had chairs around the outside, and behind like some screens in the corner, there was all the other chairs. And I got Jake Harbin and Steve Gregory and Ollie Campbell and Dan Norgrove and Tom Tanderella behind that screen, and we had a moment. I said, look, Andy Morton was there as well. I said, look, whatever happens today, I'm proud of you guys. Let's just make sure that we do ourselves justice and do ourselves proud, and we execute the plan. And I've got almost faith in you guys. I know that you've got it within you, and when the chips are down, just keep the faith and keep fighting. And we're in this together. We've been in this game as long as anyone else. And having that quiet moment between, again, my generals, the guys I trust the most, before the field, having a little chat with them, quietly away from everyone else. That's something I always, I'll remember.
One of my standout memories from that game was coming back into the changing rooms after. So we basically got ushered off the field by the Brit Bowl brigade of staff that were like, "You've got to get off the pitch," and like pushing us all back and away from our families, from photos and stuff like that. So I think I was quite late back into the changing rooms, but I remember walking in and there was like Domino's pizza everywhere.
Yeah.
And everyone, there was probably like Sweet Caroline bashing away in the background. Everyone's jumping around. And I remember just kind of like walking in and just thinking, it's done, it's over, it's finished. And nothing summed it up more than when I looked off to my right-hand side, there was you sat on the floor, like up against the wall of the changing rooms, next to Ben Davies, the hero of the hour.
Yeah.
You both just had a bottle of beer in your hand. You bought like both bright red because of the sun from the day, and you both just looked completely, I don't know whether exhausted would be the right word, but so satisfied with everything that occurred. And I remember looking at you both and thinking, that's exactly how I feel right now.
Yeah.
This is perfect. So that's one of my top moments from that day. This is probably going to be a very tough one.
Okay.
What your 3 proudest moments from coaching?
I think the genesis of the green team in Nottingham. So we launched a second team to make sure that we are giving everyone opportunity. It goes back to what I said earlier about everyone pays the same amount, but they don't get the same game time. I wanted to make sure that we had first-year players who are new to the sport. It was irresponsible for me to put them in and throw them in against scholarship teams in the Premier League. Is there another way? Can we have a second team in Division 2 and to grow them holistically and let them develop at their own rate? And seeing the first game of the green team, led by, again, trusted generals, Andy Mortimer and Raffaele Mazzucci, seeing them run that green team game, that first ever green team game, phenomenal. That was, and what's even more is having the first team, the gold guys. So we're talking about our performance team, our scholars and the gold team being there cheering on the green team and getting as much out of it of the guys on the field, which was really awesome. That was a real kind of, this is what we're doing it for moment. I think anytime you see a penny drop is really big. We talked about that moment with Raf where he got it, and Will Jepson doing something great, and the feeling of putting someone in a position to succeed. Making that perfect call where you've seen something, you understand what's going to happen. Now, I can't take all the credit for the Ben Davies pick, because all I wanted to do was change up the way we played a whole 3x1 coverage. I just wanted to play man to the 3x1, and Ben read it and hit it. So seeing those moments where you go, you know what, I had a hand in that is really good. And again, allowing people to succeed and put people in a position to succeed, either from coaching technique or game planning or seeing something, is really good. And I think, again, kind of a bit of a cop-out answer, but seeing seeing the guys I coach go on and be really, really successful in life, in football, in relationships. It's awesome. I make the same speech to all the freshers at every single the university team I coach. I said, you guys don't know it yet, but your best friends for life are in this room, and you don't know them. You're just a bunch of strangers right now. But I can guarantee you, your best man for your wedding is sat in this room, and you've not spoken a word to him yet. You don't know who he is. The people who are there, the crucial points in your life. They will pick you up when you're down, who celebrate with you when you're happy. They'll be at the christening of your child. There'll be all these vital moments in your life, and you don't know him. American football in the UK, for me, is the greatest fraternity in the world because it's a niche sport driven by niche personalities and like-minded individuals coming together who would never, ever share a room before, share a changing room, or share a bus ride together. Those are the moments which are really important. So going on and going to weddings and seeing people succeed, and seeing guys I coached as freshmen at Loughborough, or young 18-year-olds start families and have kids, and that's really, really awesome to see that I'm still in their lives and I can celebrate with them.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things where you probably heard the saying where the strongest of bonds are forged in adversity. And for me, American football, I'm hoping the closest I will ever get to being in a war zone, where you are literally, you're in the trenches, you're going out there, you're going to take a hit, you're going to get hit, and the people that you're with, again, you're fighting together, you're trying to win, you're trying to survive together, and we have to get on in that environment. I mean, I know we mentioned earlier about scraps and fights at training camps, but when it comes down to it and you're on the field, or you're in the changing rooms, or you're on a long bus journey, or you're in one of the hotels that Elliot Walters has booked opposite a nightclub, which is blasting music out till 4 a.m. the day before a game, you're in that environment where you're surrounded by people, and you've got no option other than to get to know them and to be able to get on with them, and you share that journey along the way, don't you?
And that's it. It is a shared journey, and whatever life event in 20 years' time and 30 years' time where everyone's back together again, we'll be talking about, do you remember that time in Edinburgh? Do you remember that time at camp? Do you remember that time? It's shared experiences, the bus rides, I don't think so much about the games and the outcomes, but the processes leading up to them and the denouement afterwards, and how it felt. That emotion of, I couldn't tell you all the players in, the national final. I could probably pick out one or two that happened. But I can tell you about those emotional moments with the people who you love the most. I remember, going up to, it's Malachi's second ever game, American football. I met him and his mum at the end, in the end zone, and I was pretty happy. And literally, the first words to a 9-year-old were, "That's pretty fucking good, isn't it?" It's those ridiculous things that you remember, that I think will always stay with me.
Love that.
And it was pretty fucking good.
Which game was it?
National final.
Oh, is that what it was?
Malky Nellen's first game was a semi-final against the Warriors, and the second game was national final. Oh, Malky, in fact, didn't see us lose for maybe a season.
Was he at the previous national final?
No.
Malachi, it's his fault. His fault. He wasn't there. His fault. We're gonna have to strap him into the team bus and put him in a suitcase.
Well, now he's playing. Now he's playing. He might be otherwise engaged. He might be playing for the junior team.
Yeah, I'm not bothered. Don't care. He's coming. So, right, what I've done here is try to get rid of a few things that I think are a given and are a must. Yep. So, for a player to be great, let's say American football or any other sport, anything you want for for a player, an athlete to be great, they need genetics, talent, hard work, and what else?
Genetics, talent, hard work, and what else? I don't even think you need that. Genetics, look at some people who have coached who are genetically gifted. There's some guys who, talent. I think you need to be bloody minded. I think you need to be dedicated. I think you need to be relentless. I think you need to succeed at anything. You need to be a little bit mentally ill, because you need to be fixated on something, and exactly. To have pride in being the best. I think, again, using me as an example, genetics. Do you use the genetics in coaching? Talent, I don't think I'm any more talented than anyone else, but I work hard, and I'm driven, and I want to be the best. And I think you need all those things. I think you need to be empathetic as well. I think you need to be a team player. There's lots of attributes that I would look for in a player. If I was to create a perfect kind of like voodoo doll of DNA. So I don't think I can dial it down to one. Similarly, I think that we talk about the Tamworth intangibles: selfless, relentless, and ambitious. They're three great things that I want. Have the ambition to be great, be relentless when you're pursuing that goal, and be selfless and understand that there are other people on the journey with you.
I think for me as well, I remember when we got the T-shirts with those three values on, and I looked at those and I thought, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
I want that to be part of my core values, my philosophy, the way I do anything and everything. What would you, as we're wrapping up now, because we've been at this for a long time, and I know there's not been too many great things on tonight. Boris doing his little thing, and then also I think
I've not even seen the news yet. I'll have to have a look in a second.
I don't think we're not missing anything, don't worry. But what would be your top 3 book recommendations?
Okay, book recommendations.
First, any reason as well. Any reason.
First and foremost, Legacy. About the All Blacks. I think that makes a lot of sense if you're a coach or competitive. Reading that will help you dial down into the psyche of a successful team. I think that is a must read for anyone who is passionate about sports, and I think I've gifted that book more than anything else. I've gifted to friends and to colleagues who get it, and I read that. It's really good. Leading with the Heart by Mike Krzyzewski about Duke basketball. That was actually a course text at university. Tells you about Mike Krzyzewski and Duke basketball, how he runs a program, how he runs a team, and I think that's really, really essential reading as well if you want to be a coach and a successful coach. It's really, really good. Those two certainly. What else do I really like? What I really rate? I mean, those two are my go-to. I'm going to have to look behind me and what my.
So you've got a nice library going there.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of stuff that I really like. I mean, I'm reading this at the moment. So the Boy in the Water, about Tom Gregg, who's the youngest person to swim the channel. Just a really good emotional book about a boy overcoming his fears and the path of not being able to swim to swimming his first open water thing at Windermere, and at the age of 11 swimming the channel. So that's what I'm currently reading. But the Captain Class I really like. I really like oh god, I can't even think now. Lots of football books, I like the what have we got there? Yeah, Fourth and Goal Every Day. I enjoy it. Every Week of Season's really good. Anything by Matthew Syed. I really like Bounce.
Yeah.
It's really good. I mean, I've just got loads. I think the two I really recommend are those two, but I enjoy lots of different things for a lot of reasons. But they're the two texts I think I reflect on the most. I'm just going to double check if there's anything else I've list out. Yeah, Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Yeah.
We've kind of talked about before. Leaders Eat Last. I like. Yeah.
Simon Sinek. Yep. That one way Leaders Eat Last. Yep.
Yeah, I got that. Touching My Father's Soul's really good, which is about the son of Tenzing Norgay, who went up the up Everest. He recreated his father's journey. So yeah, there's lots of sports books, not necessarily football books, just ones with kind of a good meaning and a good story and something that I can take something away from.
My final question for you, and you can have a moment to think about this.
Okay.
Or I class you as a very one of the top inspirational people that I've ever come across. What would be, and I don't want to blow up massive expectations on this, but what would be your top bit of advice or your signing off rather, for anyone who might be struggling, going through a bit of a tough time at the moment? Obviously, COVID's kicking around still. Sport and a lot of outlets have been taken away from people. What's something you would like to say to someone that might be struggling at the current moment?
I think to understand that everyone struggles. To struggle is human. I've gone through these last 12 months has been really tough on everyone, including myself. And just because I don't necessarily espouse that vision of me in public doesn't mean that I don't struggle daily, weekly, monthly through different adversity. But the knowledge that, I know it's hard to think, that tough times don't last, but you will get through this, and it might feel like the end of the world at times. And God knows that during my life that I've had opportunities like that and feelings like that where everything feels hopeless, but just around the corner there is something that's there. The other thing I want to kind of reflect upon is I'm a big fan of the Los Angeles hardcore punk scene. Growing up, I used to listen to a lot of punk and ska and hardcore stuff. And Henry Rollins, the author, poet, artist, raconteur, I think said it best, is that you don't have spare time. There's no such thing as spare time. There's no such thing as free time. All you've got is lifetime. So how you spend this time is, you might be kind of twiddling your thumbs a little bit, going, well, I've got this spare time. I've got this, time to burn, nothing to do. I'll just watch TV. I'll just do that and do the other. It's your life. You've got time now to achieve whatever you want to do. The biggest excuse for success is I don't have the time. Well, you know what? During lockdown, everyone's got time. So if it's writing a book or painting a picture or doing poetry or doing something, now's the opportunity. Don't say you haven't got the time, because you've got all the time in the world now, and time is a finite resource. Use it wisely, spend it wisely, tell your loved ones that you love them, and try and get better at something every single day. Because this year, whilst it has been a waste of the year, it's only a waste if you choose to waste it. Take the opportunity to make something special happen. I've filled it with being with my family, reading and trying to stay sharp as much as I can. Am I guilty of wasting time? Absolutely. I've got to be better at that. But this is your legacy, so make sure you use it well.
Sound advice there, 100% sound advice. I think that will stand anyone in good stead if they follow that. And speaking of time, does that mean that the book of Jason is about to commence? Does that mean that you're going to get down to writing?
I think, well, what I've actually chosen to do, I've got, again, I know through my gruff exterior, you may not think it, but I actually write a lot of poetry. So I'm going to try and write a poem a day. And I want to really kind of get down into writing. Hopefully that'll kind of access the parts of my brain. People say that when I was in America, one thing that was leveled at me, accused of, they knew I was British because I used 12 words when 3 would have sufficed. So my wide and varied vocabulary and lexicon will be pushed. And so I think hopefully by writing poetry and thinking critically about language, I will start getting to writing. And maybe I need a partner to write with, maybe I need a shadow author, Lenny. So, maybe we should put our heads together and collab.
I don't know about poetry. I can definitely start writing your book for you if you want. Yeah. I'll send you the email.
I think it'll be interesting. It'll certainly whether anyone will want to read it, The Ramblings of an Insane Man.
That was a great title.
Yeah.
I think that's a bestseller on the way right there.
There you go.
Speaking of the poetry then, have you got anything ready to go? Is there anything that we could...
No, nothing yet. I mean, the great thing about poetry is no rules to it. So my first poem was about Scrabble, and it's like 3 lines long. So there's nothing to go yet.
You'll have to let me know when there is.
Let's see if there's something in here that is worth anything. It says, this journey is full of highly intellectual information.
Did you write that, or was that already printed there?
And it's just... No, there's nothing yet. But yeah, so I've got a line here. Just a throwaway line, a little bit of a play on words. Sometimes I feel like lost baggage, a bit like a hopeless case.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's... Yeah.
Speaking of cases, you mentioned Raphael a couple of times. You'll have to write a poem about Raphael's case of chicken.
Yeah.
For anyone that's listening, Raphael will go down in Tamworth folklore for bringing a suitcase full of chicken
wings, chicken thighs, chicken whatever,
on the coach on away trips.
Little travel suitcase. I say a little travel suitcase. It's not even a little travel suitcase. It's a travel suitcase.
It is legit a travel suitcase, isn't it? Full of chicken. Amazing.
Yeah.
What a legend. Anyway, Jason, I've got to say it's been an absolute honour and a pleasure.
Thank you for letting me kind of wax lyrical and talk football and talk life and the meaning of everything. And it's always a pleasure to speak to a great coach, a great friend, and a great teacher, and you're all those things. So thank you. Let's do it again soon in person, hopefully after lockdown.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get back to football. But until then, take care of yourself.
Love you, man.
Stay safe. Right then, so there we have it. That is the conclusion. That is the end of my first chat on this podcast with Jason Scott. I 100% will have him back on at some point in the future because he's full of energy, inspiration, and passion and desire to help other people be their best as well, which is something I 100% buy into. So hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed this show. If you have, again, as usual, please leave us a rating, leave a review, and get in touch with us. And I will endeavor to continue to get more amazing people on to speak to you, because that's what this is all about. And hopefully you've taken some level of inspiration from Jason there, from what he's been through, his story, his time. And that is what we're all about. So keep working hard, keep grinding. Stay safe, enjoy yourself, and keep moving forwards. That is it from me. Lenko out.